Good morning, Gordon College. Thank you. How's everyone doing? Yeah? I'm exhausted. I'm excited to be here, but I am exhausted. This has been great. I came across this short story written in 1868 by an American author named Bret Harte. And I want to share it with you this morning. It's called Luck of the Roaring Camp. According to the story of Roaring Camp, this place was the meanest, toughest mining town in the western United States in the 1800s. Murders, fights, thefts were part of everyday life at Roaring Camp. The town was inhabited completely by men and one woman. Her name was Cherokee Sal, but she died giving birth to a baby girl. The men took that baby girl and they put her in a box with some rags for a cradle. And when they looked at that sweet baby in the box full of dirty rags, they decided that it just didn't look right. So they sent a man 80 miles away to buy a rosewood cradle. He came back to Roaring Camp, but the rags didn't look right in that beautiful rosewood cradle. So they sent another man to buy some beautiful silk blankets. And they put the baby wrapped in those blankets in that rosewood cradle. And it looked fine until they noticed that the floor was really dirty. And those hardened miners got down on their hands and knees and they started scrubbing that floor with their calloused hands until it was clean. And of course, all that made the walls and the ceiling and the windows and the curtains look pretty bad. So they washed down the walls and the ceiling and they put curtains on the window. Things were looking good, but they had to give up fighting because the baby needed to sleep a lot. And babies don't sleep well through brawls. Everything calmed down at Roaring Camp. They would even take the little rosewood cradle with the baby in it and put it at the entrance of the mine so they could see her when they came out from their work. And someone noticed that the place was so dirty that they landscaped and planted flowers at the entrance to the mine. And it looked beautiful. And after working in the mine, when they went down to pick up the baby, they looked at their hands and they were filthy and dirty. So the camp store sold out of soap and shaving gear and cologne. The moral of Harte's story is pretty clear. The baby changed everything. That's what up there, down here should look like, folks. When Jesus left the throne room of heaven, the majesty of heaven, to come to earth as a baby, everything changed down here. When Jesus enters our life, our community, everything changes. Nothing is unnoticed and untouched. That's what the Sermon on the Mount is all about. That's what up there, down here is all about. We live in a world where heaven and earth have come together in a sweet embrace through Jesus Christ. And up there, coming down here, should change everyone and everything, including our relationships. You know, everyone is in a relationship with someone. We're all in relationship with someone, right? Family, friends, professors, mentors, roommates. We're in a relationship with the people who we buy groceries from at Market Basket or Target. I'm definitely in a relationship with the people at Chick-fil-A. Christian chicken. Jesus didn't bring God's kingdom up there, down here in isolation. Up there, down here is never a solitary endeavor. We follow Christ in community because we live in a world of relationships. So in Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 to 12 this morning that I want you to turn to if you have your Bibles with you. Matthew chapter 7, beginning at verse 1. Jesus turns his attention to something that should grab all of us. How do we bring up there, down here, through the power of Christ in our relationships? How do we allow God to change everything, including how we relate to one another? Look at Matthew 7, 1-12. It says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it'll be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye," or in your own hand right now? "How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and tear you into pieces. Ask, and it'll be given you. Seek, and you'll find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds. And the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." On Thanksgiving, we had a couple of Gordon students over for Thanksgiving dinner. Do you guys have that one dish that if you don't have that dish, it's not Thanksgiving? Yes, we all have that dish. It could be like pecan pie or sweet potato casserole with more marshmallows than sweet potatoes, and cranberry bread, cornbread stuffing, turkey. I don't know what it is. You know what it is for me? It's my grandma cranberry salad. Listen, this is cranberries, pineapple, apples, oranges, grapes, marshmallows, and, yes, Cool Whip. After taking a bite of my cranberry salad, one of the Gordon students looked at me and politely said, "There's a lot going on here." You know what? That's a great description of what's happening in this text. There is a lot going on here, and we can't deny that. Look at the first line. Do not judge. Oh, man. How many times has that been quoted to us in the old KJV? Thou shalt not judge. It always sounds better in old English, right? We hear this verse quoted in a situation like this. Listen, I know he cheated on the test. I get it. But you know what? We're all sinners, right? Jesus said, don't judge. Or if we ever dare challenge someone's behavior, I'm not sure you can really eat bacon at every meal and live very long. Like, people would look at us and go, dude, don't judge. This guy in New Hampshire this summer, this is true, right out of the news. He went into Planet Fitness to work out. You guys know what Planet Fitness's motto is? Judgment-free zone, right? So he walks in and he takes off all of his clothes and he starts working out. And when the police arrested him, he said, I thought this was a judgment-free zone. That's all you got to say for yourself. Even people who don't believe that the Bible is the Word of God quote this verse to us, thou shalt not judge. It's really their way of saying, hey, wait for it, Gordon, you do you. I know no one even wants to say anything to that because I think that's the way we live. I take care of me, you take care of you, don't judge, okay? Can I just tell you that's not what Jesus is saying here? And listen, hold with me for a second. When Jesus says do not judge, you know what he's forbidding? He's forbidding this deep-rooted spirit of condemnation and contempt and rejection of people that we can give with a word or a look or a glance. He's saying don't pronounce someone guilty before God. Nothing will stress a relationship faster than this type of judging, Jesus says. Can we just say something together real quick? I want you to repeat after me. I am not God. Everyone, even up there in the balcony, you guys, seriously, I am not God. When Jesus says, do not judge, he's telling us that very line that we know. We are not God. When up there comes down here, our relationships take on a whole new feel. We see people as valuable, made in the image of God. We take time to understand that they have feelings and stories. This passage is not forbidding us from saying that certain things are right and certain things are wrong. We know that because look what Jesus says next. He says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye when you pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" I love this illustration. It's almost like Jesus goes back to his childhood. He goes back to the carpentry shop and he thinks, planks, sawdust, specks. I got this. I know how I can make this point come home. It's not wrong to help someone get that speck that's harmful out of their eye. It is wrong to self-righteously point out that speck in someone else's eye while ignoring that you have a plank sticking out of your own eye. Jesus is saying if our relationships are going to bring up there, down here, we need to deal with our plank problem. So let's talk about the plank problem for a second in the room. I know there's a giant plank in the room, right? Did you guys get a plank? Everyone hold up your planks. You guys got your planks? I love it. I want you to look at that plank in your hand for a second. I want you to feel it. I want you to hold it. And I want you to put that plank somewhere that you will have a visible reminder of what Jesus is teaching us this morning. As tangible as a piece of wood in your hand, as crystal clear as a plank. Hey, if we're driving in our cars, this is how it works, isn't it? And we're looking at our phone, and please don't do this. This is one of those things I'm saying, don't do it, but if it happens and you're doing this, and you drift into the other lane, you know what you do in your mind? You say, oh, I'm the busiest person in the world. You know what? I just drifted into the other lane. Big deal. It's going to be fine. Oops, sorry about that. Oh, man, but if we're driving our car and the person next to us drifts into our lane because they're on their phone and we see it, we're like, dude, you're going to kill someone. What is wrong with you? Get off your phone. We have a plank problem, and it's right in front of our face. You would think we would notice our own problems first because they're our problems, but sometimes we don't notice them at all. Plank? What are you talking about, plank? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see any plank. Jesus, planks, what are you doing? Why did Tom give us a plank? We don't see problems. Even this itty-bitty little speck-sized problem we can see in someone else crystal clear, high-definition clarity, but we have a real hard time being responsible for our own actions, and we're very good at blaming others. That's how we're wired, and Jesus brought up there, down here, to change that up. I think the greatest prayer we can pray is this in relationships. Lord, change me. Not Lord, change him. Lord, change her. Lord, change them. But Lord, change me. Change my critical spirit. Change my biting sarcasm. Change my jealousy. Change my ingratitude. Change my defensiveness. Change my indifference. Change my selfishness. Change my inability to see the plank in my eye and help me to see others gently. When up there comes down here, Jesus transforms us from the inside out, and we will begin to consider the other person in all of our relationships. To make his point, Jesus uses this cool next illustration. He says, don't give dogs what is sacred and throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under your feet and turn and tear you to pieces. I know, there's a lot going on here. First of all, let me just be clear. Jesus is not saying, and you don't look around, some people are dogs and some people are pigs and they don't deserve sacred things. That's not what he's saying here. Jesus teaches clearly that all human beings are made in the image of God and they have value and dignity and worth, and we need to love them with all we've got. The problem is not with the dogs and sacred things and pearls that aren't, worthy for pigs. The problem is that dogs don't need sacred things, and pigs have no use for pearls. I love dogs, don't get me wrong. My church in Zurich, they allowed dogs in the church. It was awesome until they started fighting every once in a while, but it was pretty cool. But I'll be honest with you, I never got a nice, kind email or thank you note from the dog saying, wow, you did such a great job in that sermon, Tom. Maybe I didn't preach well, but, the music was awesome this week, Tom. I really felt like I connected with Jesus. So you get the picture here. And it's not that pigs aren't wonderful. They're cute and they're smart and, dare I say, delicious. But I've really never seen a pig wearing a string of pearls. I'm totally getting emails from the vegetarians out there, I know. Don't judge. No, I'm just kidding. Jesus says, don't judge. Take the plank out of your own eye before going after the speck in your other eye. And all the time he's trying to make the point, consider others in these relationships. And that's what this dogs and pearls and pigs and things is all about. You may have some amazing insight and some wonderful wisdom about life to share with someone, and that's great. That insight might even be the good news that Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose from the dead, and that's wonderful. I'm all for sharing the good news with anyone who will listen to the story of the cross. But Jesus doesn't want us to force our wisdom on a non-receptive person who has no use for it. You can't control other people, Jesus says. You can't force another person to do the right thing. You can't have them let go and make room for God. You have to let God touch them. God is the only one who enters a life and transforms it from the inside out, melts hearts and transforms. In all our relationships, Jesus is saying we need to take time to get to know people. Do we listen more than we talk? Do we take time to hear people's stories and perspective? Are we reading nonverbal cues in the proper way when someone's saying, I can't handle this right now? Are we sensitive, kind, loving, and humble? In all our relationships, Jesus says we need to consider the other person. How do we keep our relationships here on earth reflecting God's kingdom? And I love this. Jesus gives this incredible summary and very practical way. And literally, I think the best piece of advice for human relationships on earth. It brings people together. It creates unity. It's the key to bringing up there, down here in all our relationships. And Jesus says, ask, and it'll be given to you. Seek, and you'll find. Knock, and the door will be open. What do we ask for? I believe we ask for this next section of the Sermon on the Mount where it says, Lord, give me the strength. Transform me from the inside out. Give me the courage to live out this golden rule in all of my relationships. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. Isn't that fantastic? The greatest preacher of all time gives the greatest sermon of all time, and now he gives the greatest cliff notes of all time right there in the sermon. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. We make bringing up there, down here so complicated, folks, but Jesus makes it so clear. You want up there to come down here in your relationships? Treat people like you would want to be treated. What would it look like if we lived out the golden rule every day and everywhere? We have, the day after Thanksgiving is called what? Black Friday, right. And what happens on Black Friday? I didn't even leave the house, so I don't even know. But Black Friday is the shopping day, right? You get in line at 5 a.m., you're ready to buy that memory card for $5, and you're going to get it, and you'll fight someone for it. It's like every person for themselves Friday. So I decided on Saturday I was going to take my 6-year-old daughter, Jocelyn, out for what in my head I was calling Golden Rule Saturday. It was pretty cool. You guys track with me here for a second. Golden Rule Saturday is I made this up, but it's very different than Black Friday, except for we went shopping. And on Golden Rule Saturday, everything I did, I needed to think, how would I want to be treated in that situation? Okay, so I get in my car, I start driving, and that's like the first place you have to learn about this Golden Rule Saturday thing, right? And I go to the transfer station. In Rockport, we don't have trash pickup because the trash trucks can't fit through the narrow streets, so we have to bring our trash to the dump or the transfer station. And I'm carrying my box of recycling that's really big, and I accidentally bump into a guy who is also bringing his recycling to the bin. And I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, sir, I didn't see you." And he looked at me and said, "Didn't see me? What's wrong with you?" And I went, "Oh, Golden Rule Saturday." I am so sorry. You're right. I should have seen you. Please forgive me. Oh, that was not cool. Please forgive me. Oh, I was like, wait a minute. That's not my normal response. So I get in my car, I start driving, and I get on 128. You guys know about the on-ramps on 128? Can we even call them on-ramps? You know about those little parts of pavement that are this big? Do you know one of my pet peeves? I have a lot. But when someone doesn't get over to the left lane when I'm trying to merge on a no-merge 128, because I'm thinking all you have to do is just give me a little space. But it was Golden Rule Saturday, so when the car was like blocking me, I just put on my brakes and I thought, how would I want to be treated? I'd want to be treated with patience and kindness. So I didn't honk my horn because it was Golden Rule Saturday. Jocelyn was like, what is going on here, Daddy? So then I take Jocelyn to, one of my happy places, REI. And we're walking around REI, and it's crowded, and it's long lines. And I'm like, it's Golden Rule Saturday. This is cool. I can handle this. I'm going to be nice to anyone. How would I want to be treated? With patience and kindness. I took her to Costco because that's an awesome place. And I'm there in Costco. And Saturday on Costco is really crowded, and we're on top of each other. And I was on my best behavior. It was awesome. I was like, how would I want to be treated when someone leaves the cart in the middle of the parking lot? And I know the wind's going to blow it into my car. It's cool. I'm going to grab the cart, and I'm going to put it away, even though it's not my cart, because it's Golden Rule Saturday. It was an awesome day. And then I take her to the mall. We park at Nordstrom's, and the person backing out of the parking spot, this was so cool. I normally don't get excited about this, but it was Golden Rule Saturday. It's like an opportunity to honor God right here. She took a long time to get out of her parking spot. It was like put on makeup, and then when she backed up, she was like 40-point turn, and I was like, it's cool, we're good. Golden Saturday, right? And then I'm thinking in my head, if I got to treat people like I'd want to be treated, where would I want my dad to take me to lunch? Of course, it would be Chick-fil-A. So I took Jocelyn to Chick-fil-A, and look how happy she is. And then I looked at the mall, and I thought of all the stores in the mall where I could practice Golden Rule Saturday the most effectively, like this is going into the fire, is that Build-A-Bear place. She got a Build-A-Bear out of this. And even kissed the little heart and put it in there, and they filled it with stuffing and all this stuff. And there were people all around like really excited about stuffed animals. And I was like, okay, I'll treat them like I'm excited about stuffed animals too. This is Golden Rule Saturday. Anyway, so in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. How do we keep from being judgmental? How do we keep from being selfish and only seeing our perspective? How do we keep from having that plank in our own eye block the ability to help someone with a speck in their eye? How do we keep from forcing our wisdom onto someone? So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. When we treat each other like we would want to be treated, things get a whole lot better in our relationships. Selfishness melts away. Anger becomes a thing of the past. Annoyance diminishes. Kindness abounds. People come to know Jesus by the way that we love them and care for them and see them and acknowledge them. Up there comes down here in our relationships when we treat others like we would want to be treated. And I have to say, this is not just about being nicer to one another, folks. That's a fruit of being connected in a heart-melting, transformed relationship with Jesus Christ. And then that kindness and love overflows in ways that affects everyone. I got a text message this morning from a student telling me how excited he was for chapel this morning. And I thought, wow, I wonder if that student thought, if I were preaching in chapel, I would really want someone to send me a text saying how excited they were for coming here, because probably not everyone's super excited to be here right now. I got a text message from a faculty member who said they were praying for me this morning, and I appreciated it greatly. And I wondered if they thought You know, if I were preaching in chapel, I'd want someone to pray for me, so I'm going to send Tom a text and let him know I'm praying for him. When we live this golden rule of Jesus, people are blessed. God is honored. Before we send a text, reply to an email, speak a word, think a thought, ask, how would I want to be treated in this situation? Before we get in the car and drive to Chick-fil-A and Target, ask, how would I want to be treated in this situation? Before we get mad at someone or impatient, ask, how would I want to be treated in this situation? When we embrace Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, everything changes, folks. Everything. Everything, including our relationships. How about a little golden rule every day here at Gordon? What would that be like?